Hello, Happy New Year. It's Nicola Bird here from The Simplicity Project and glad to be back with you in this blog post. This blog post is about New Year's resolutions and how to do them differently with simplicity in mind, with simplicity as a top priority. And I've got a real turnaround 180-degree concept that I want to share with you today. So this is the time of year normally when I would sit down and create a whole list of New Year's resolutions. I'm going to lose 7 pounds, I'm going to wear my contact lenses, I'm going to exercise every day, I'm going to see more of my friends, more of my family. You know the list, right? Pretty much the same every year. Hit these income targets in my business, create this many new customers. I'd have a whole list of New Year's resolutions that I wanted to work towards. And then what I would do is I would write them all on my to-do list, and I would spend the rest of the year like motivating myself, cajoling myself, bullying myself, beating myself with a stick, tempting myself with carrots, all to help me work towards achieving those goals, those very specific, concrete, smart, well, probably over-ambitious rather than smart, but, really clear goals that I wanted to go after. And another thing that I've always been a really big fan of in the past is sitting down and creating a visualization, doing a visualization exercise. So sitting down and thinking, taking some time out and getting really clear on, okay, by 12 months from now, so 31st of December 2014, what do I want to be doing or have done this year? Who do I want to be in order for that to happen? And what do I want to have? Like, what do I want to buy? What do I want to have in terms of my environment or the people around me? So what do I want to do, be, and have? And I'd get really, really clear on what that looked like, what it smelt like, what it felt like, what it heard like. The kind of NLP way of creating your goals and your dreams for the year. And so then I'd go to my to-do list. And I would write these down to make them really, really clear, because I believe there's a real power in the writing my goals down, and then I will work towards them, especially if I pin them up in front of me and beat myself up with them every day. So I would write a list of things. So I hope you can see this board here. So I'd have my to-do list here. And on my to-do list there would be, lose 7 pounds. Okay, create X amount in revenue. It might be decorate a room in my house. It might be improve my eating. Okay, that's a very common one for people. So improve eating. Save some money, right? That's another good one. Okay, so save some money. So all of those things. And so these will be on my to-do list. Pin them up, really work towards them. Really, really tough. And what I call this now is this is the outside in way of creating your New Year's resolutions and running your life. So what we think is that when we get these things, when we do be and have these things, we'll be happy, right? That's why we do them. That's why we're really clear that we want to work towards them. When I'm doing my visualization exercise, the belief that I have behind that is, as long as life turns out like this, as long as this happens, I'll be happy. Okay, and that's a very outside in way of creating happiness and creating the things that you want in your life. So if I lose 7 pounds, I'll be beautiful and happy. If I create X amount of revenue, I'll be happy and I'll have security. If I decorate my house, I'll have a beautiful environment, which again will eventually make me feel happy. If I improve my eating, I'll feel healthier, therefore I will feel happier, and I'll have more security because I know I'll be around for longer. And if I save money, I'll definitely have more security if I do those things. And this, like I say, is a real outside-in way of doing things. And what I'm doing this year, what I've realised is a different way of doing things. So it's like doing 180 turnaround. and asking myself this question: what if we already had the things that we're trying to get through doing, being, and having this stuff? What if we already had wisdom? What if we already had security? What if we already had love? What if we already had peace of mind? What if we already were happy, naturally happy already? And then we do all this stuff, and we try and achieve all these things in the outside world because we believe that we have to go out there to get happiness. And actually, we've got it really wrong. And what I've realised, actually, we've already got that stuff inside us as a natural default setting. And then what happens is we go out in the world and we interfere with it and we mess it all up, and we think, shall we get this and shall we get that and shall we do this? And there's a whole load of stuff that goes on, which is also, incidentally, goes onto this list. So this is what I like to call your worthwhile to-do list, right? You put stuff on this list because you believe it's worthwhile doing it, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be on your list. So I'll put a little WW there just to remind you that's your worthwhile to-do list. But the other stuff that goes on here, not only, buy the car, get the house, eat better, there's also a whole load of stuff that goes on here, which is strive for these things. Worry about these things. Yeah. Think a lot about these things. Think about the decisions you need to make in order to get there. There's a whole load of stuff that is kind of unseen that also goes on this worthwhile to-do list, and you do it because you believe it's worthwhile. That's why it's on your list, okay? And as we go over through the next 12 months together, and I start to explain some of the psychology behind this new way of thinking, this 180-degree turnaround that I'm experimenting with really this year, what you'll see starts to happen is that not only will you realise how much you have on this list, right, but you'll also, this is your worthwhile to-do list, and what I want to help you work towards, you can see this side, is there's also what we also have, and what you'll realise you have, is a totally pointless to-do list. And as I start to explain some of these psychological concepts this year, what you'll realise is that 90% of the stuff that you do, that you put on this list, and as we go through the next 12 months together, if you follow me during this experiment, you'll see that there's more and more stuff that we'll add onto here that we realise we're doing because we think it's worthwhile. And what we're actually going to do is shift it over here onto our pointless to-do list. Because, for example, if you realised that you already had security, if you realised that you already really, really had security, that you would be okay no matter what. And in fact, this is the one that really stretches people, and I probably shouldn't start with it, but this is a biggie. If you realised that it didn't matter what your bank balance was, but you were always going to be okay, you could actually maybe take this one off your to-do list and put it on your pointless to-do list. Because when you start to realise that this stuff is not so important, you kind of move it onto your pointless to-do list, and once you realise it's pointless to keep doing it, you just stop doing it. So there's no cajoling, there's no beating yourself up, there's no motivation, there's no effort required. You just realise you're doing something completely pointless and you stop doing it. Okay, so this is a big concept, and I'm going to break it down over the next 12 months. That's what the Simplicity Project is all about, exploring the psychological concept that goes on behind this. Lots of you are listening to this, and those of you who know my previous work are thinking, she's gone totally woo-woo. And that's not the case, okay? Like, this is a really deep understanding that once you truly understand what's going on here, it has some really practical implications in the world. So, at the risk of trying to explain it all right now, which I don't want to do because this is just an initial blog post. So, there are only two things on my New Year's resolution list this year. And the first one is, instead of planning really clearly, I'm going to plan to get to this place. And if life doesn't turn out like this, I'm not going to be happy. So therefore, I need to do all this stuff in order to be happy. I haven't got any of this stuff on my New Year's resolution list this year. So instead of planning and then striving, which is my normal approach to life, and I will say has served me very well in the past, but for reasons I'll explain, can often, and did to me, lead to total exhaustion, burnout, and so the planning and striving approach can work, but only for a short while. And again, I'll come back in the next few posts to explain more about that. But instead of planning and striving and getting myself into the right state to do the stuff that I need to do, what I'm going to do this year is do a 180-degree turnaround. And I'm much more this year going to let my life unfold. Instead of pre-deciding and setting the intention as to what's going to happen, I'm going to let it unfold. And I'm going to tap into the kind of deeper sense of wisdom and knowing. And instead of, because it says, improve eating, no, because it says lose 7 pounds, I think, right, I must go running, I will go running, I shall go running. I'm just going to let life unfold. And if it feels wise to me, and if it feels like part of my intuition says, you know what, go running today, I'll go running. And unless I get that feeling, I'm not doing it. And I'm really interested and curious to experiment and see what does unfold for me. I have total confidence that I'm not going to end up in the situation where I just sit back, do nothing and sit on a sofa for a year. Like, I know that my inner wisdom is going to guide me to do more exciting things than that. This Simplicity project being one of them. So that's the first one, right? So instead of striving and planning, I'm much more into letting life unfold for me a little more this year. The second thing that I'm going to do is, and it's very related to the first one, is ditch the control freak, which is, it's going to be a biggie for me this year. But what I mean by that is I'm going to show up fully wherever I am. So if I'm with my kids, or if I'm at my business, or if I'm doing this with you guys as I am right now, I'm showing up 100% and I'm seeing what comes up. Right, so normally for this blog post, I would have written out every single word that I want to say to you. I would have put it on a teleprompter and I would have read out every single word to make sure that I got it, controlled it, it was exactly the right length, exactly the right time. And I didn't. I've sat down in front of this video camera. I knew that I wanted to explain how to shift 90% off your to-do list, which is the big theme of this year. So I had a board here, and I've got a pen in my hand, and I've got the video camera, and that's it. And I've showed up. And the stuff that I've talked to you about as a result of just showing up and being here that I probably would not have thought to think about if I'd written it all out. So already I can see the first example of how this is a totally different way of working. And it's an experiment. I want to play with it. So I suppose what I'd like you to do is I'm going to be sharing a lot of psychological concepts, a lot of real explaining how this stuff works, how we're going to work taking stuff from here to here over the next year. And I'd really love you to join me in this experiment. I'm learning and I'm sharing with you as I go. And so the first exercise that I'd like to ask you to do, I'll set you a series of exercises. Now, you listen to your gut and your gut may go, that's not for me, that's a total waste of time. But if your wisdom guides you to follow along and play along and have some fun with these exercises, then this will be the first one for you. So what I'd like you to do is just to take a moment and write down, have a look at your to-do list, your worthwhile to-do list that you've made as a result of your resolutions, and that's sitting on your desk right now. And I just want you to look down them and just reflect on the question, like, what is it actually why is that thing on your list? Is it, when you ask yourself why, just ask yourself, like, I want to create X amount in revenue. Why? Because I said I would. Why did you say you would? Because I wanted to prove to my husband that I could. So why do you want to prove it to him? Because it makes me feel like I have self-worth. Okay, so like get to the why you've put everything on that list. And I just want you to ask yourself, like, if you already knew that you had it, if you already knew you had self-worth, how does that impact? Does that start to shift things for you from here to here a little bit? Now, this is not going to be a transformative exercise on its own, but I just want to start pointing you in the direction of this psychological approach to how we're going to be approaching simplicity, this year, but maybe this life, I don't know. We'll see how the experiment turns out. I'd love it if you would share your thoughts with me below, because you really help me get clarity. When you post questions to me and I can reflect and answer back to you, that really helps me get clarity on this experiment as well. And to me, this is the key to simplicity this year. It's going to be about how we shift this stuff from here to here. Okay, so how we take stuff from that we think is worthwhile doing and we just stop doing it. For me, there's a whole load of examples which I will share with you that I've just stopped doing. I just realised I don't have to do it anymore, and it's already cut a huge amount off my to-do list and given me much more joy, freedom and happiness in my life already. So I'm going to share all that with you. I'm going to share what I learn, but please post your comments below, because it's great for me to know that there's somebody out there listening to what I'm talking about. And I know this has been a really long video, but you may start getting a few more of those as I just show up and tell you what I'm thinking. So share your thoughts, love to hear from you, and look forward to the next post.